When you talk to people who don't know anything about computer forensics and you ask them, what do you think computer forensics is? The responses usually fall along the lines of, I want to catch bad guys. Or they think of spy versus spy, someone's hacking one system and you're going to thwart their attempt. Computer forensics is a lot more than just that. Computer forensics is a lot of front-end work, a lot of analysis, and a lot of end work that goes with it. My name is Michael Robinson. I currently teach at Stevenson University in the Graduate and Professional Studies Department, and I teach computer forensics to graduate students. I work in the Department of Defense, and I do conduct investigations for my own internal agency, and I also conduct investigations to assist other DoD organizations. My services can be retained to go in and do an analysis of a particular situation. Computer forensics involves specifically the acquisition of data, the preservation of data, the identification of data, and the reporting back of this data to the finder. The finder could be someone internal to a company. It could also be to someone in the legal system. Computer forensics is both a science and it's a little bit of an art. So while there may be scientific methods that we can use, there is a certain art and practice that has to be facilitated by the computer forensic specialist. So when it comes time to examine a particular hard drive, yes, there's a certain set of procedures that one would have to execute and go through. However, there is a certain amount of art and style that goes with the type of examination that's going to happen.
My name's Chris Forche. I'm a security professional with the federal government for the last 26 years. During criminal investigations, we task those IT professionals to recover data, to see what information's been accessed, whether it be out on the internet or information that might be lost through someone improperly using that laptop or that computer or system. And the way we do that is through those IT professionals. That's why they're a key part in the security from a security perspective.
It's essential during a forensic analysis of a hard drive to make sure that the procedures that are followed are tested and proven to make sure they yield reproducible results. It's absolutely necessary in a particular case. If I do an examination of a hard drive and come up with some crazy, brilliant procedure, and that brilliant procedure produces the results just one time, there's no way for anyone to verify the results of my test. I need to make sure that I use a procedure that's been tested and accepted by the courts, and to make sure that other professionals have also examined it to make sure it's reliable. So when I do an analysis and I tell you there are certain computer accounts on a computer, certain accounts have been logged into, certain files have been created and deleted, and I have recovered them, and I use tried and true procedures and tools, people don't have to question whether or not there was some piece of magic that can't be reproduced in the middle.
Those folks in the forensics world have it tough because I'm telling you, they have to document everything, they have to be very detailed, and without that detailed information, I can't make sure that the case is prosecuted. When we take and look at an individual based off of their theft or their criminal activity, if it's not documented to the T, that person's going to get off. That documentation takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it is not always done correctly. So a lot of time has to be spent. We're not talking days, we're talking weeks of documentation.
When a client retains my services in order to do an examination of a hard drive, probably one of the most important aspects of the case is the preservation of the chain of custody, making sure that once the evidence is received, it hasn't been intentionally or unintentionally modified or tampered with after that point. So if a client were to provide a hard drive to me, it's immediately described, photographed, placed inside an anti-static bag to prevent electrostatic discharge, sealed in an evidence bag, and then locked in some type of storage device to make sure no one else has access to the drive. At that point, it's very necessary to document the chain of custody, the date and time when certain activities were handled, and that is whenever a hard drive is particularly handled or moved. Once we have the hard drive there and it's documented, we can take the hard drive out of that container by filling out the log at the same time, taking the hard drive, connecting it to a computer in order to make a duplicate of that hard drive. It's very important during the forensic process not to actually analyze the hard drive in question. What has to be done after the physical acquisition of the drive is we have to do an acquisition of the data and the contents on the drive. So hard drive is connected to a hardware write blocker to avoid a computer writing or changing any contents to a hard drive. And then different pieces of software are used to extract the full contents of the entire hard drive on a bit-by-bit level to make sure we retrieve all of the data, not just the user data, not just the operating system, but any residual data that might also be on the disk. During a hard drive analysis, there are certain pieces of evidence and information to look for. The two major areas where examinations occur are an examination of user-created data, when a particular user saves a spreadsheet, saves a Word document, saves an art file, or some other file that the user creates. User-created data is one of the first areas of information to look for, and that is stored within a particular user's profile. The second piece of important data that's looked at is operating system data. When a person uses a computer and performs certain activities like saving a Microsoft Word document, the Microsoft Windows operating system performs a number of activities in the background. All of those little pieces of information from those activities can be gathered together to tell a story. I can tell you a user logged into a particular computer, saved a document. The Microsoft Windows operating system will save shortcuts to files. It will apply certain timestamps to individual files, when a file is created, when it's modified, when it's last accessed. It will assign ownership and permissions to particular files. All of that stuff added together tells an incredible story, an incredible history, and an account of what happened on a computer. A lot of times when we look at the cache of files that's stored on a hard drive to talk about and show what happens with an individual and their web surfing habits, we start accumulating a large amount of data scattered on different parts of the hard drive. Combine that with the time an individual logs into a computer and logs out of a computer, names, passwords, particular websites that's stored in someone's favorites file. Put all of those together and then you can begin to show whether or not someone actually engaged in a particular activity on a computer. The finished product of an analysis or an examination is usually twofold. It's a report describing the methodology, the major findings, and the conclusion, and then all of the recovered data that goes with it. It's a very challenging piece of work. It's not hard to use forensic tools to go in and take a look at individual hard drives. To do a full forensic analysis of a hard drive can take a serious amount of time. Everything from the initial chain of custody, all the way through the acquisition, all the way through the preservation of the data, to the actual examining of the hard drive and then writing up the results. But the thing I like about it, the thing I like a lot about being an IT expert, is being able to offer an analysis of a hard drive and find out, this is the story that took place. These are all the pointers that put it together. It's very rare I'll go in and I'll find the smoking gun. Aha, it had to be this for this reason. This is the one piece of evidence you want. It's never like that. It's usually a whole bunch of subtleties that have to be put together, and all of it comes together to tell a story.